The message arrived at the Galactic Council chambers on a quiet morning. Ambassador Kelrix of the Vorian Empire stood before the massive display screen, watching the transmission repeat for the third time. The beings on screen looked strange. 2 eyes, no tail, no scales or fur worth mentioning. They called themselves humans, and they came from a small blue planet in a distant arm of the galaxy. "We are sending this message as a warning," the human woman said. Her face was calm, but her eyes carried weight. "There is a species spreading through space. It moves quietly. It does not conquer with weapons. It does not announce itself. By the time you notice it, it will already be inside your worlds, your cultures, your people. We know because we are that species." Kelrix felt his neck scales rise. Was this a threat? A declaration of war? "We have tried to contain ourselves," the human continued. "But we cannot. It is our nature. Wherever we go, we change things. We share things. We connect. We are writing this message 50 cycles before we plan to leave our solar system. We want you to know what is coming. We want you to be ready. We are sorry. We truly are. But we cannot stop what we are." The message ended. The chamber fell into silence. Council leader Marthex, a towering being of crystal and light, spoke first. "Is this species claiming to be a plague? A virus?" "They seem to be warning us about themselves," said Ambassador Trell, her tentacles coiling nervously. "But warning us of what exactly? They speak in riddles." "Primitive fear," Kelrix said, dismissing it with a wave. "They are about to enter space travel. They are afraid of the unknown. They project their fears outward and call it a warning. I have seen this before with new species." "Should we not investigate?" asked Trell. "For what purpose?" Marthex's voice resonated through the chamber. "They have not left their system. They may never leave it. Thousands of species send us messages when they first develop long-range communication. Most never achieve true space travel. We will note their existence and move on." The council voted. The decision was recorded. Earth's warning was filed away in the archives, marked as low priority. Just another message from another species taking its first steps into the dark. Kelrix returned to his duties and forgot about the humans. Completely 50 cycles passed. Then the reports began. The first came from a mining colony in the Kestra system. Nothing alarming at first. The colony reported unusual behavior among the workers. They were forming what they called unions. They were creating art on the walls of the tunnels. They were singing while they worked. Productivity had increased by 40%, but the colony administrators were confused. This was not normal behavior for Kestran miners. "Where did they learn these songs?" the report asked. "Where did this idea of unions come from? Our workers have never acted this way before." The second report came from a trading station near the Helix Nebula. The merchants there had started something called a marketplace festival. They were competing not just in prices but in presentation. They were telling stories about their products. They were building relationships with customers instead of simply conducting transactions. Trade had doubled, but the station master was worried. "This is not how we do business," she wrote. "Something has changed our people." More reports followed. A science outpost began holding poetry nights. A military academy started teaching something called philosophy. A farming world introduced sports competitions that had nothing to do with farming. Each report mentioned the same thing. No one knew where these ideas came from. They had simply appeared, spreading from person to person, world to world. Kelrix read the reports with growing unease. He called an emergency session of the council. "We have a situation," he announced. "Multiple worlds are reporting unusual behavioral changes. Cultural contamination of unknown origin. The pattern is spreading." "Contamination?" Marthex questioned. "These reports describe increased productivity, happiness, and social cohesion." "Where is the contamination?" "In the fact that we do not know the source," Kelrix insisted. "Culture does not simply appear from nothing. Something is spreading through our territories and we did not authorize it. We did not even detect it entering our space." Trell projected a star map. Red dots marked each world with unusual reports. There were hundreds now, scattered across council space. "Look at the pattern," she said. "It does not follow trade routes. It does not follow any logical path. It appears random, but it is clearly spreading." "Could it be a weapon?" someone asked. "A psychological attack?" "If it is a weapon, it is the strangest one I have ever encountered," Marthex said. "It makes people happier and more productive." "What kind of weapon does that?" Kelrix felt something cold in his chest. A memory surfaced. A message from long ago. A warning. I need to check the archives, he said quietly. He left the chamber and went directly to the data vaults. His claws shook as he entered the search parameters. Earth. Humans. Warning. 50 cycles ago. The message played again. The human woman's face appeared on his screen. By the time you notice it, it will already be inside your worlds, your cultures, your people. Kelrix stared at the screen. His mouth went dry. We are that species. The words echoed in his mind. He looked at the star map again, at the spreading red dots. Then he looked at the date of Earth's message. 50 cycles ago. 50 cycles ago they said they would enter space. 50 cycles ago they warned the galaxy, and the Council had ignored them. Kelrix ran back to the chamber. He burst through the doors, breathing hard. I know what is spreading, he said. I know what it is. The Council turned to look at him. It is them, Kelrix said. The humans. They are here. They warned us they were coming, and we did not listen. Marthex's light dimmed. That is impossible. We have sensors. We have patrols. No unknown species could infiltrate Council space without detection. Where are their ships? Where are their colonies? Show me proof. Kelrix opened his mouth to answer, but he had no proof. No ships, no colonies. No human presence anywhere in Council records. And yet the evidence was everywhere. In the songs, the art, the new ideas spreading like wildfire through the galaxy. They were already here. Somehow, impossibly, they were already inside. The Council established a task force within one rotation. Kelrix found himself leading it, though he wished someone else had volunteered. The responsibility felt heavy. If humans were truly infiltrating Council space, finding them became the most important mission in the galaxy. The task force started with the obvious places. They investigated the worlds showing unusual cultural changes. They scanned for human biological signatures. They searched records for any ship that could have carried humans into Council territory. They found nothing. No DNA traces. No ship signatures. No physical evidence at all. This makes no sense, Trell said during their 10th briefing. Culture does not travel through empty space. People carry culture. Where are the people? Maybe they are using some kind of stealth technology, suggested Commander Vorn, a military officer assigned to the task force. Something beyond our detection capabilities. Then why announce themselves at all? Kelrix countered. Why send a warning if you plan to hide? The question hung in the air. No one had an answer. They changed tactics. Instead of looking for humans, they started tracking the cultural changes themselves. They cataloged every new idea, every strange behavior, every unusual practice that appeared on affected worlds. The pattern that emerged was disturbing. The changes always started small. A worker would begin humming a tune no one recognized. Someone would suggest a new way of organizing a meeting. A child would draw a picture in a style that did not match their species' traditional art forms. These small things would spread. Others would copy them. Within weeks, entire communities would be transformed. But there was something else. Something the task force noticed after months of investigation. The changes were not random. They had themes. Cooperation. The idea of working together toward common goals, even across different groups. Innovation. The belief that new ideas were valuable. The change could be good. Story. The practice of sharing experiences through narrative, of connecting through shared tales. Art. The creation of beauty for its own sake, not for function. Music. Sound organized not for communication but for emotion. These concepts existed in Council species, of course, but not like this, not with this intensity, not spreading like fire through dry grass. It is like an infection, Trell observed, but instead of making people sick, it makes them more alive. Kelrix recorded everything. The task force filed reports. The Council read them with growing alarm. Some Council members wanted to quarantine affected worlds. Others argued that would be impossible now. The changes had spread too far, touched too many people. Then came the breakthrough. A junior analyst named Plix discovered something in the cultural database. She was reviewing entertainment broadcasts from affected worlds when she noticed a pattern in the new stories being told. Many of them referenced something called Earth legends, stories about heroes and monsters, love and loss, struggle and triumph. Plix dug deeper. She found more. songs mentioning human emotions, art, styles described as Terran minimalism, philosophical, concepts traced back to something called human existentialism. She brought her findings to Kelrix. They are not hiding, Plick said, her eyes wide. The humans are not hiding at all. They are in every story, every song, every new idea. They are the source. But they are not present physically. They are present culturally. Kelrix felt understanding dawn. They are not infiltrating with ships and soldiers. They are infiltrating with ideas. But how? Trell asked when Kelrix presented the findings to the task force. How do ideas travel without people to carry them? That was the question that haunted Kelrix. He requested access to all communication records between Council space and the Sol system. The Council approved, eager for answers. What he found shocked him. There were thousands of transmissions. Millions, actually. They had been arriving steadily for 50 cycles, ever since Earth's original warning. But they were not official communications. They were not messages to the Council. They were entertainment broadcasts, information packets, cultural files, music, movies, books, art, philosophy, science, history. Earth had been broadcasting everything. Their entire culture, sent out into space in every direction, free for anyone to access. And people had been accessing it. The signals were weak, requiring sensitive equipment to receive. But curious individuals across the galaxy had picked them up. Scientists studying primitive species, communication technicians testing new receivers, board station operators looking for novelty during long shifts. They had downloaded the human files out of curiosity. They had watched human movies, listened to human music, read human stories, and then they had shared them person to person, friend to friend, world to world. The human cultural files had spread through informal networks below the Council's official notice. No one thought to report them. They were just entertainment. Just curiosity, just interesting alien perspectives on life, but humans had designed it that way. Kelrix found another message buried in the archives. Not a warning this time. A statement of intent, dated 5 cycles after the original warning. We cannot stop ourselves from sharing. A different human said in this message. It is core to what we are. We create, and we share what we create. We think, and we share what we think. We experience, and we share those experiences. We know what this will do. We have seen it on our own world. One culture touches another and both are changed. Ideas are the most powerful force we know. They do not require ships or weapons. They only require an open mind and a willing heart. We are sending you everything we are. All our stories, all our music, all our thoughts and dreams and questions. We cannot stop. We do not want to stop. This is what we meant when we warned you. This is what we are. Kelrix played the message for the entire Council. The chamber was silent for a long time after it ended. They weaponized their culture. Vorn finally said, "No," Kelrix replied quietly. "They simply shared it. The weapon is that we cannot help but be interested. We cannot help but be changed." Marthex's light flickered. "How many of our people have been exposed?" Plix pulled up the statistics. The numbers scrolled across the display. Hundreds of millions of individuals. Thousands of worlds. Every major population center in Council space by the stars, someone whispered. "It gets worse," Plix said. Her voice shook. "I checked the distribution pattern. The human cultural files have been circulating for 47 cycles. That means nearly every adult in Council space has been exposed to them either directly or indirectly. The ideas have become part of our collective consciousness. We cannot track who has been influenced because influence is everywhere now." Trell's tentacles drooped. "Then they have already won. Whatever their goal was, they have achieved it. They are inside all of us." Kelrix thought about the last few months. He thought about his own behavior. Had he changed? Was he thinking differently? He tried to remember how he thought before. Before the investigation, before he learned about humans, he could not. The line was too blurred. He could not tell where his own thoughts ended and human influence began. The realization terrified him. They needed to find the humans themselves. The actual beings, face to face. They needed answers, and they needed them now. The Council sent investigation teams to 12 different worlds. Each team had the same mission: find actual humans. Not their influence, not their ideas. The physical beings themselves. Kelrix led the team assigned to Portal Station 7, a massive trading hub where the cultural changes had been particularly strong. If humans were anywhere, they would be here. The station hosted beings from hundreds of species. Thousands of ships passed through every cycle, and the population was diverse enough that newcomers rarely attracted attention. The perfect place to hide. Kelrick's team spent 3 full rotations interviewing station residents. They asked about humans, about strangers, about anyone who seemed different or unusual. The answers they received were frustrating. Humans? I think I met one once, said a Kestran merchant. Or maybe it was a Terran? Are those the same thing? Nice person. Recommended a good eating establishment. There was someone working in the lower docks, a Vorian dock worker told them. Did not have a tail. Could be human. Could be Prelian. Hard to tell with the helmet on. I have a friend who loves human music, offered a station administrator. She plays it all the time. Drives me crazy. But I do not know if she is human. I assume she was Vornian like me. The more they asked, the more confused Kelrick's became. People had definitely encountered humans, but no one could identify them with certainty. No one had paid enough attention. The humans had blended in so completely that they had become invisible. On the 4th rotation, Plix made a discovery. She was reviewing station employment records when she found something odd. There was a category called Cultural Consultant that had appeared in the record 7 cycles ago. 40 individuals were listed under this category, but the species identifier for all 40 was marked as Mixed Other. That is a placeholder code, Plix explained to Kelrick's. It is used when someone's species is difficult to classify or when they prefer not to specify. Convenient, Kelrick's muttered. Find these 40 individuals. Bring them in for questioning. The task proved more difficult than expected. Of the 40 names, 32 no longer worked at the station. They had moved on to other locations. Station records showed they traveled frequently, never staying in one place for more than a few cycles, but 8 were still there. The team located the first one in the station's agricultural section. Her name was Sarah Chen, and she was teaching a class on alternative farming techniques to a group of young Kestrans. Kelrick's watched from the doorway. She looked exactly like the humans in the original warning message. 2 arms, 2 legs, no tail, minimal fur, but she wore standard station clothing and spoke perfect Galactic Common. If Kelrick's had passed her in a corridor, he would not have looked twice. When the class ended, Kelrick's approached her. Sarah Chen? He asked. I am Ambassador Kelrick's of the Galactic Council. I need to speak with you, she smiled. The expression was warm and open. Of course, Ambassador. Would you like some tea? I just learned how to make it the Kestran way. It is fascinating how different cultures approach something as simple as preparing hot beverages. She spoke about tea. Tea. Kelrick's wanted to shake her. Did she not understand the situation? I need to know what humans are doing here, he said firmly. What your mission is. What you are trying to accomplish. Sarah's smile faded into something more serious. We are not doing anything wrong, Ambassador. We are just living our lives, working, learning, sharing what we know. You are changing the galaxy. Is that against the law? Kelrick's opened his mouth, then closed it. He realized he had no answer. There was no law against sharing culture. No law against teaching. No law against being friendly and open. Your people sent a warning 50 cycles ago, he said. You told us you were coming. You said you would be inside our worlds before we noticed. Was that a threat? It was exactly what we said it was, Sarah replied calmly. A warning. We know what happens when humans mix with other cultures. We have history of it on our own world. Sometimes it is beautiful. Sometimes it is destructive. We wanted you to be prepared. We did not want to surprise anyone, but you came anyway, even though you knew you would change things. Could we have stayed on Earth forever? Sarah asked. Never exploring. Never meeting our neighbors. Never sharing anything. Would you have done that if you were us? Kelrick's had no answer for that either. Over the next several rotations, the team interviewed the other 7 humans on the station. Each conversation was similar. The humans were polite, open, and utterly unapologetic about their presence. They worked normal jobs. They made friends. They participated in community activities. They were just living. But everywhere they went, change followed. Not because they forced it, but because people were curious about them. People asked questions. People wanted to learn human recipes, human games, human ways of thinking. The humans would share, and the sharing would spread. It is not intentional infiltration. Trell concluded after reviewing all the interviews. It is just their nature. They are curious about us, and that curiosity is contagious. We become curious about them. We ask, they share, and in sharing, they change us. Kelrick sent his report to the council. Other investigation teams sent similar reports. The pattern was consistent across all 12 worlds they investigated. Humans were present. Humans were integrated. Humans were changing things simply by existing. The council called an emergency session. All ambassadors were required to attend in person. No remote participation allowed. The session would be held on the council homeworld of Tyros. Kelrix traveled there with a heavy heart. He knew what was coming. The council would demand action. They would want the humans removed, quarantined, controlled. But how? The humans had broken no laws. They had not invaded. They had not attacked. They had simply arrived and been themselves. Could being yourself be a crime? When Kelrix arrived at Tyros, he noticed something immediately. The city had changed. There were new designs in the architecture, new patterns in the pathways, new sounds in the air. He heard music playing from open windows. Not traditional Tyronian music. Something else. Something with a beat he recognized from the human files he had studied. He stopped a passing Tyronian citizen. "Excuse me. That music. What is it?" "Oh, that is the new plaza performances," the citizen said cheerfully. "They started a few cycles ago." "Amazing, right? Makes the whole city feel more alive." "Who started it?" The citizen shrugged. "I do not know. Someone suggested it and everyone loved the idea. Now we have music in the plazas every evening." Kelrix continued toward the council chambers. His scales felt cold. If Tyros itself was changing, if the council homeworld was being influenced, then nowhere was safe. The humans were not just in council space. They were in the heart of it. He entered the chambers and took his seat. He looked around at the other ambassadors. Hundreds of them, representing every species in the council. He wondered how many of them had listened to human music, how many had read human stories, how many had been changed without even realizing it. He looked at himself, at his own thoughts, his own feelings, and he realized the truth. It was too late. It had always been too late. From the moment the first human cultural file was downloaded, from the first time someone grew curious about these strange beings from Earth, the outcome was inevitable. The humans were inside all of them now, inside their thoughts, their cultures, their societies, not as invaders, not as conquerors, but as a permanent presence, woven into the fabric of galactic civilization so completely that removing them would tear everything apart. Marthex called the session to order. The crystal being's light was dim, reflecting the somber mood. "We have a problem," Marthex announced, "and I fear it is a problem without solution." The council chamber buzzed with anxious voices. Every ambassador wanted to speak at once. Marthex had to pulse light 3 times before order returned. "We cannot remove them," Ambassador Trell said, her tentacles knotted with stress. "They are too integrated, too spread out. We do not even have complete records of where they all are." "Then we limit further migration," suggested Vorn. "Close our borders. No more humans enter council space." "It would not matter," Kelrick said quietly. "The cultural files are already here. The ideas are already spreading. Even if no human ever entered council space, we would still be dealing with their influence for generations." "Then what do we do?" someone shouted from the back of the chamber. "Except that they have conquered us without firing a shot." "Is it conquest?" Marthex asked. The question silenced the room. "They take nothing. They demand nothing. They have no government structure making claims on our territory. They are just here, living among us. Is that conquest?" "It is invasion of culture," argued a Kestran ambassador. "They are replacing our traditional ways with their ways. Are they?" Kelrix asked. "Or are we choosing to adopt their ways because we find value in them?" "I have reviewed the reports. No one is forcing these changes. People are choosing them. Because humans manipulate them into choosing," Vorn said. "How?" Kelrix challenged. "Show me the manipulation. Show me where humans are coercing anyone. They share when asked. They teach when invited. They participate when welcomed. If that is manipulation, then every teacher is a manipulator. Every artist. Every storyteller." The arguments continued for hours. But beneath the arguments, Kelrick sensed something else. Fear, yes, but also confusion. The council members did not know how to classify this situation. It fit no existing category. The humans were not enemies, but they were changing everything. They were not friends, but they seemed to mean no harm. They were not neutral, because their very presence transformed societies. During a break, Kelrix found himself in the chamber's meditation garden. He needed to think. To clear his head, he was not alone. A figure sat on one of the benches looking at the synthetic sunset. Kelrix almost turned away, wanting solitude. Then he noticed something about the figure's silhouette. 2 arms, 2 legs. No tail. You are human, Kelrix said. The figure turned. It was a human male, perhaps middle-aged by their standards. He smiled gently. Guilty. My name is David Okoro. I am a cultural liaison officer. You work for the council? Kelrix felt his scales rise. A human working inside the council itself? For 3 cycles now, David confirmed. I help translate cultural context when the council deals with Earth matters. Though there has not been much of that lately. Earth prefers to let us out here handle ourselves. You are very calm, Kelrix said. Do you know what is being discussed in that chamber? They are talking about restricting your people, possibly deporting you. I know. David's expression remained peaceful. It is understandable. Change is frightening. We frighten them. You warned us 50 cycles ago. Your people warned us this would happen. We did. David gestured to the bench beside him. Kelrix hesitated, then sat. My grandmother was on the team that sent that first message. She spent her whole life worrying about this moment, about what would happen when we finally met our galactic neighbors. She was right to worry. Maybe. Maybe not. David looked back at the synthetic sunset. Tell me, Ambassador, in the last 50 cycles, how many wars has the Council prevented through cultural exchange programs? Kelrix blinked at the sudden question. I do not have that number. 47, David said. I looked it up. 47 conflicts were resolved because opposing sides found common ground through shared cultural experiences. Do you know what most of those shared experiences were? Kelrix felt cold. Human culture, not entirely. But yes, human elements were present in almost all of them. Music, mostly. Stories. The idea that different groups could find connection through art and narrative. That is a very human concept. Most council species do not think that way naturally. You are saying you have made the galaxy more peaceful? I am saying we have made it different, David corrected. More peaceful is your interpretation. But I will not deny it. Human culture emphasizes connection, empathy, understanding. When those ideas spread, yes, conflict tends to decrease. Kelrix was quiet for a long moment. You did not just come to explore, did you? You came to change us. No, David said firmly. We came to be ourselves. The changing is just what happens when humans interact with others. We cannot help it. We tried. Back on Earth. For thousands of cycles, we tried to keep our cultures separate. It never worked. Cultures mix. Ideas spread. People connect. It is nature. Not just human nature, universal nature. But you are particularly good at it, David smiled. Yes, we are very, very good at it. That is what my grandmother tried to warn you about. Not that we would hurt you, but that we would change you and there would be nothing anyone could do to stop it. Then the warning was pointless. No. The warning was preparation. We wanted you to understand what was happening when it happened. We did not want you to think it was an accident. We wanted you to know we knew. That we were aware of our impact. Kelrix stood. His legs felt weak. I need to return to the session. Of course. David remained seated. Ambassador. One more thing. Kelrix turned. Check your own records, David said. Your personal records. Your favorite music. Your reading history. Your recent thoughts. Be honest about what you find. Kelrix returned to his quarters that night instead of going back to the session. He sat at his data terminal and opened his personal files. His hand shook. Music library. He scrolled through it. When had he downloaded so many human songs? He remembered adding a few just out of curiosity. But there were hundreds now. He played one. The melody was beautiful. It made him feel something he could not name. Reading history. Half the books he had read in the last cycle were written by human authors or about human philosophy. He remembered each one. He had loved them. They had made him think in new ways, his recent messages. He read them with fresh eyes. He saw phrases he had never used before, concepts he had not held before. ways of expressing himself that felt new. It was true. He had been changed. Deeply. Fundamentally. Without even noticing it happening. The humans were not just in council space. They were in his mind. In his heart. In the way he understood the world, he should have been angry, violated, furious at this infiltration, but he was not. Because the changes had made him better, more thoughtful, more open, more alive. That was the terrible truth. The thing the council could not face. The humans had not conquered them. They had improved them. And that was somehow more frightening than any invasion. Because how do you fight against something that makes you better? How do you resist something you do not want to resist? Kelrix put his head in his hands and wept. Not from sadness, from the overwhelming complexity of what they were facing. The next morning he returned to the council chambers with new purpose. He had an idea. A dangerous idea, but it was the only path forward he could see. He requested the floor and Marthex granted it. I propose we stop trying to solve the human problem, Kelrix announced. The chamber erupted in confusion. He raised his voice. We stop trying to solve it because it is not a problem. It is a reality. The humans are here. They have changed us. We will never go back to what we were. So instead of fighting it, we need to understand it. We need to hear from them directly. We need to ask them what they want, what they intend, not as invaders, not as threats, but as neighbors. You propose negotiation? Marthex asked. I propose conversation, Kelrix said. Real conversation. With Earth itself, the council voted. The measure passed by the smallest margin in council history. They would contact Earth, they would demand answers. They would finally face the source of it all. The message to Earth was simple. The council invited Earth's government to send representatives to Tyros for formal discussions. The response came within 2 cycles, faster than anyone expected. Earth would send a delegation. They would arrive in 30 rotations. The council used that time to prepare. They established protocols. They drafted questions. They debated what demands to make, what concessions to request, what boundaries to set. Every species wanted something different. The Kestrons wanted human influence limited. The Vorians wanted it expanded. The Tyronian wanted clear rules. The Prelians wanted no rules at all. Kelrix realized the humans had already done it. They had divided the council simply by existing, not through malice, just through their nature. When the human ship arrived, Kelrix was surprised by its appearance. He had expected something massive, impressive, and designed to intimidate. Instead, the ship was modest. A simple transport vessel barely large enough for a dozen passengers. It bore Earth's symbol, a blue and green sphere with white clouds. The delegation that emerged was equally unexpected. 5 humans, all middle-aged or older, dressed in simple clothing, no military uniforms, no weapons, no show of force. They looked like teachers or administrators, not diplomats. The lead delegate introduced herself as Ambassador Chen Mei. She was an elderly human woman with gray hair and kind eyes. Thank you for inviting us, she said in perfect galactic common. We have hoped for this meeting for a long time. The formal session began within hours. The council chamber was packed. Every ambassador attended. Hundreds of observers filled the galleries. The galaxy was watching. Marthex opened with the central question. Why did you come? What do you want from us? Chenmei smiled. We want what every species wants, council leader. To live, to grow, to learn, to share. We did not come to take anything from you. We came to be with you. You are changing us, Vorn said accusingly. You are transforming our cultures without permission. Yes, Chenmei agreed simply. We are, that is what we warned you about. We cannot exist near others without changing them. It is not intentional. It is not planned. It is just what happens. Then you admit to cultural invasion, a Kestran ambassador said. If offering our music is invasion, then yes, Chenmei replied. If sharing our stories is invasion, then yes. If teaching what we know when asked is invasion, then yes. We are guilty, but we did not hide what we were doing. We announced it. We warned you. We have been transparent from the beginning. Transparency does not make it acceptable, Trell said. Her tentacles were knotted. You should have stayed away. You should have kept to yourselves. Chenmei looked sad. Could you have done that? If you discovered you were not alone in the universe, could you have stayed home forever? Never reaching out? Never trying to connect? The question hung in the air. No one answered. We are social beings, Chen Mei continued. It is our greatest strength and our greatest weakness. We need connection. We seek it constantly, and when we connect, we change things. We always have. On Earth, human cultures mixed and changed each other for millennia. Sometimes it was beautiful. Sometimes it was terrible. But it always happened. We cannot stop it. We can only try to make it as gentle as possible. So you offer no solution, Marthek said. You are telling us to simply accept this. I am telling you that you have already accepted it, Chen Mei said gently. Most of you are wearing clothing influenced by human design principles. Half of you have accessed human cultural files at some point. Your cities are changing, your arts are evolving, your societies are adapting, not because we forced you, but because you chose it. You found value in what we offered. Kelrick stood. Then tell us the truth. All of it. What is your end goal? What do you want the galaxy to become? Chen Mei met his eyes. We want it to be connected. We want bridges between species. We want understanding. We want a galaxy where different beings can live together, learn from each other, and grow together. Is that so terrible? It is if it destroys our individual cultures, someone shouted. Has it destroyed them? Chen Mei asked. Or has it added to them? Kestran miners still mine. Vorian traders still trade. Tyronian builders still build. But now they also sing while they work. They tell stories. They find joy in what they do. Have they lost themselves? Or have they found more of themselves? The chamber erupted in argument. Voices overlapped. Species shouted at each other. The debate raged for hours. Kelrix watched it all with growing understanding. The council could not agree because there was no right answer. Some species benefited from human influence. Others felt threatened by it. Some individuals loved the changes. Others hated them. There was no unified response because the galaxy itself was not unified. That night, Kelrix met with Chen Mei privately. They sat in the same meditation garden where he had met David Okoro cycles before. You knew this would happen, Kelrix said. When you sent that first warning, you knew we would not be able to stop you. You knew we would not even agree on whether we should try. We hoped, Chen Mei corrected. We did not know. But yes, we understood the likely outcome. Diversity is natural. Disagreement is natural. What we do with that disagreement is what matters. Some species will resist you, Kelrix warned. Some will fight to preserve their cultures unchanged. We know. We will not force ourselves on anyone. If a world or a station or a community says no humans allowed, we will respect that. We have no desire to go where we are not welcome. But your influence will reach them anyway, through your cultural files, through contact with changed neighbors. You cannot contain your own impact. No, Chen Mei admitted. We cannot. But we can be honest about it. We can help others understand what is happening. We can teach adaptation rather than resistance. That is why we sent the warning. That is why we are here now, to help the galaxy navigate this change together. Kelrix was quiet for a long time. Then he asked the question that had haunted him since the beginning. Do you feel guilty for what you are doing to us? Chen Mei considered carefully. I feel responsible. I feel aware. But guilty? No, we did not choose to be this way. We did not ask to be so social, so curious, so infectious in our passion for connection. We simply are. And we choose to be honest about it. Is that not better than hiding? Better than pretending we are something we are not? The council sessions continued for 8 more rotations. In the end, they reached a compromise. Earth would establish formal diplomatic relations with the council. Humans would be allowed to travel, work, and live in council space freely. But worlds could declare themselves cultural preservation zones if they chose, limiting human presence. A new bureau would be created to study and track human cultural influence, helping species adapt to changes. It was not perfect. Many ambassadors voted against it, but it passed. Chen Mei shook Kelrix's hand before leaving. The gesture was very human. Kelrix found he did not mind. Thank you, she said, for trying to understand. I am not sure I do understand, Kelrix admitted. But I am trying. That seems to be what you ask of us, to try. It is all we ask, and all we offer in return. The human delegation departed. Life in the council slowly returned to normal. Or rather to a new normal, because nothing was really the same. Kelrix noticed it everywhere. In the music in the plazas, in the art on the walls, in the way people spoke to each other, with more openness and curiosity. The changes were subtle but permanent. One cycle later, Kelrix attended a cultural festival on a station near his home system. He watched Kestran children performing a play that mixed traditional Kestran mythology with human storytelling techniques. The audience loved it. Parents cheered. Everyone seemed happy. Kelrix realized something then. The humans had been right. They were inside all along. Not as invaders, not as conquerors, but as partners in something larger than any one species. The galaxy was changing, had changed, would keep changing. That had always been inevitable. The question was never whether to accept the humans. The question was whether to accept change itself, whether to grow and adapt and become something new. Kelrix thought about the alternative. A galaxy where species stayed separate, where cultures never mixed, where everyone remained exactly as they had always been. It sounded safe, comfortable, predictable. It also sounded lonely. He watched the Kestran children take their bows. They were laughing, proud of their performance. One of them was humming a tune Kelrix recognized, a human song, but the child did not know it was human. To that child, it was just music, just art, just part of their world now. Maybe that was the real truth, the thing the Council had struggled to accept. Human culture was not replacing their cultures. It was becoming part of them, mixing with them, creating something new that belonged to everyone. The humans had warned them. They had said they were coming. They had said they would be inside before anyone noticed. They had said it was inevitable, and they had been right. But in the end, Kelrix thought, maybe that was okay, maybe even good. The galaxy was richer now, more connected, more alive. He looked up at the stars and wondered what other changes were coming. What other species were out there waiting to be discovered? What new influences would shape the galaxy in cycles to come? He found he was not afraid of the answer. The humans had taught him that. To be curious instead of fearful, to embrace change instead of resisting it. He smiled, another human habit he had picked up without noticing. The galaxy would keep changing. Cultures would keep mixing. And that was fine. They were all inside each other now, all connected, all growing together. And maybe that was how it was always supposed to be.